Well, welcome everybody. This new series is DOGE and the Founding Fathers. So this is going to be part one. So what does DOGE team have in common with the Founding Fathers? Well, both were rich. Both were working for free, right? The Founding Fathers, they did not draw a salary. They worked for the betterment of a fledgling nation. And now the DOGE team is working for free. Many of them are billionaires. They don't need the money. They don't need to steal, which is a common thread of the left and the Democrats with their Trump derangement syndrome. DOGE is steal. Nobody's stealing. They don't need to steal. They don't need to benefit their friends. So let's continue. They're all working for free, and both sought to strengthen the republic of, by, and for the people. Okay? So they seek to separate government from an oppressive and unjust monarchy. Now you may say, well, how is the federal government a monarchy? The Democrats have sought to make it a monarchy, although technically a monarchy is through bloodline, right? Well, these are, I'll call them the blue bloods, right? The Democrats, the blue bloods, although they may not be in actuality blue bloods, but blue versus red. So we'll call them blue bloods. And the swamp, as provided, by the Democratic Party, and there were plenty of America Last Republicans in that swamp, but by the vast majority, they are Democrats. Okay, so now we all know who the founding fathers were, right? And, but let's meet the DOGE team. Steve Davis, Joe Gebbia, Aram Mogadassi, Brad Smith, Anthony Armstrong, Tom Kraus, and Tyler Hasson. The founding fathers were George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Ben Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and my all-time favorite, James Madison. So, similarities. Each man offers a unique contribution to the team, right? The original founders, some thought, some wrote, some fought, some served in public office. The DOGE team, they're made up of computer and aerospace engineers, business professionals, healthcare executives, product managers, designers, lawyers, data scientists, business analysts, and cybersecurity professionals. The founders constructed the Declaration of Independence, inclusive of the Bill of Rights, which are the first 10 amendments, primarily drafted by James Madison. DOGE, by virtue of defining and eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government, is essentially like the fight by the framers to end taxation without representation. The feds take our tax dollars and give it to foreign governments, non-citizens, and NGOs, none of which serve the taxpayers of the United States of America. Hence, taxation not only without representation, but it's of our money, but the feds serve the interest of foreign nations over ours. Money has even been given to subsidize the construction of the tunnels in Gaza, which serve the interest of Hamas, right? $300 million went to in Gaza to build a cement factory. And what happened? Hamas took over that cement factory that we paid for and used that to build the tunnels. Well, the founders realized the danger of total power placed in a centralized government, right? Similar to a monarchy that held all of its power over its subjects. And for that reason, the U.S. Constitution delegates certain powers to the federal government. It's the ability to regulate commerce, tax, coin money, declare war, maintain an armed services. At that time, it was only an army and a navy. We have since gone into the Air Force, the Marine Corps, Coast Guard, etc., and establish a postal service. Little known fact, the Postal Service is the only organization within the federal government that you don't need a high school diploma for. Why? Because the federal government needed a service that anyone in any part of the United States, even without a high school diploma, could get a job with. That was a little known fact. So, therefore, all other powers are given to the individual states in the 10th Amendment, which states all powers not delegated to the federal government nor prohibited to the states are reserved to the states respectively, or, get this, to the people. So, i.e., the Second Amendment, which gives people the right to bear arms, stating that a well-regulated militia is necessary to the security of a free state, and this right shall not be infringed. You know, in communist countries, in fascist countries, in totalitarian countries, in countries in the Middle East that are where the religious right controls everything, the first thing they do is take away the weapons from the people so that they cannot protect themselves nor overthrow an unjust government. And we've seen that a little bit here in this country. Well, today the federal government has become so bloated and has usurped so much power from the states by virtue of the Supreme Court legislating from the bench that those rights of the states and the people have been taken away. The waste, fraud, and abuse that's been going on for decades now calls out for DOGE to bring back the federal government to its intended purpose and to operate within the confines of the powers enumerated to it by the Constitution. And that, I think, is a good start to show how DOGE and the Founding Fathers have similar purposes. We'll continue again in part 2, and we'll go on beyond that and maybe talk a little bit about each of the DOGE members and maybe do a little history on the Founding Fathers and how this country has gone from a representative form of government to what I feel almost seems totalitarian, where the few people, like who's that you hear now, who's in charge of the Democratic Party? You know, it was Schmuck Schumer, but now they've turned on him. AOC is turned against him, and the squad is turned against him. They certainly turned against Bernie Sanders when they dumped him in lieu of Sleepy Joe Biden, right? So, but they want to maintain power, and we're going to talk about that. So this is a good start, and remember, never surrender.